They get to manage those programs without any issue. The money is in their wallet. Now, with them not being the grantee of the ELO-P dollars and the ELO-P dollars being utilized like local control funding, the funding was sent, ELO-P dollars were sent directly to districts, meaning FCSS fresh programs had to reach out to districts and say, hey, can we have a piece of this pie so that we can expand services in those programs that we're offering on your guys' campuses? So in order to help alleviate, reduce the anxiety, stress of that situation, what I did was create a document that now isn't only accessible to Region 7, it's accessible to the entire state as far as the data. And I'm going to just jump into the resource because it's pretty dang cool. So if you want, you can do one of two things. Elena's going to put the link in the chat that allows you to see the document, the Google Drive, or you can use your phone and pick up this QR code. And if you click on the QR code, you'll be able to secure the document. So I'm going to click on the QR code. And I'm going to bring up the district engagement tool. So I am super passionate about this tool. It's amazing. I didn't realize how amazing it was, though, until that Boost conference workshop, when people gave a lot of feedback about the usefulness of it. So here's the deal. It's broken up into multiple different sections. The first section is a district profile. So what are the smaller details? What are the details that we need to know about the district? Then it segues into what are current services and funding availability, segues into current services and funding availability continued, and then expanded learning reimagined around ELO-P, and then what are the next steps? So we're going to dive in each one of these sections. I do want you guys to ask questions. So to make it as a smooth transition for those questions, if you could save the questions till the end of each section. So after I go over this district profile, by all means, put your questions in the chat, and Elena will let me know, or Virginia will let me know we have questions, okay? So district profile, what's the name of the district? What's your free and reduced meal percentage? What's your unduplicated pupil percentage? Enrollment, grades served, additional notes. The intention behind this section is to just understand the basics around your district. Now, what I find is there's, like we said, there's different roles in the district. An expanded learning professional might not know all this information. So it's important to know this information when you go into those co-creation spaces, because some of these things are tied to compliance. So if we look up unduplicated pupil percentage, there's specific ed code around how ELO-P needs to run around that unduplicated pupil percentage. So Josh, I don't know what my UPP is. Well, guess what? District TK information, if you click this, it will show you right here. And what I've done is I've highlighted the section that pertains to what you click on. So if, let's say, your Alameda County Office of Education, no, I'm not going to go. Ming Charter, their UPP percentage is 21%. Oakland Unity Middle School, 88, essentially 89%. And why is that important? That's important because, again, the unduplicated pupil percentage is tied to compliance around ELO-P. Enrollments, if you're over 80% and your enrollment's 800 and you have 800 TK to sixth graders, you know you're going to have to serve quite a few students. And then also with your district, if you serve TK all the way up to 12th grade, but you're focused on providing only services to TK through 6, you would need to acknowledge, hey, we want to serve this range, but we also have high school. Do we have assets programs? And that's going to segue into the next section. So any questions around that first section? No? Okay. So the next section, current services and funding availability. So I tried my best to get every single funding source possible that can be used for expanded learning. So the first section is expanded learning specific grants. So ACES base, that's state, ACES before school, ACES supplemental. Those two are both grandfathered grants. That means you can apply for them. If you already have them, don't lose them because you'll never get them again. ACES Frontier Transportation. Anything with ACES is state. 21st century, 21st century base, 21st century summer, 21st century equitable access, 21st century assets base, which is for high school. Those are all federal funding sources. So Josh, what if I don't have this funding and my free and reduced meal percentage free and reduced meal percentage is 92. Well, I would tell you, hey, you should probably apply for that funding because odds are you probably get it. And if you're already having to run ELO-P, why not secure the ACES funding as well? So where do I go to do that, Josh? Click the ACES base and it will show you what it's all about, what you have to do, and important deadlines. So available funding, like you can actually apply through this site for the funding. If you wanted to, if you're out on a supremely rural area and you have a transportation issue and you want to apply for ACES Frontier Transportation, click it and it will take you directly to that site. But that is one medium as to teaching yourself in this using this resource. But the other one is when you're doing this first page, you can say, okay, I know because I work in the ACES and 21st Century programs, I do have an ACES base. I forgot one step. So when you secure this document, you're going to need to download it to your computer. So I'm going to download that and open it up in my computer so you guys can see the process. So I use Adobe, but it will work with any PDF application that you have. So you're going through this. I know because like I said, ACES in 21st Century, I'm the coordinator or the program manager. I know we have ACES base, we have 21st Century base. What's the number of sites that we have it at? You can put 8, 10, whatever, and then you can actually put the funding level. How much money do you actually have in ACES base? Well, Josh, I don't know how much I have in my ACES base program. Well, guess what? This will tell you. This is every single grant as far as ACES and 21st Century goes. So all you have to do is, sorry, you guys can't see that. This is what pops up when you select the funding breakdown. All you have to do is find your school, find your district. You can use the form as a singular. You can use it per site, or you can use it as district. It was built to use as a district. So if you wanted, look up your school or look up your district, and it will tell you right here what grants you have. ACES, assets, it will tell you. And it's alphabetized by your district. So that's important because you need to know how much money you have in your district as far as ACES and 21st Century goes as well. Now, let's talk about, because that's the money side. That's like the background of the grants. But let's talk about like the services through those grants. So with ACES base, what does that actually look like? What does that actually look like on campus? So it's 3 to 6. And we provide, I'm not even gonna type that. You can type in 3 to 6, snack, enrichment, and academic support. Let's say you have 21st Century summer. What does that look like? You can actually describe what the service is being offered on those sites for that specific grant. And the reason why that's important is we're going to get to that section down below with the reimagining of expanded learning. So here is another amazing opportunity. If you are unsure about something regarding those grants, I've hyperlinked the expanded learning FAQs. So if there's something you don't know about ACES or 21st Century, click this, you open it up, and it will pull up the FAQs related to all the ACES and 21st Century grants, okay? Now, in my area, there's some districts that have programs, specific school sites that qualify for ACES and 21st Century, but they also have schools in the same district that don't qualify for ACES and 21st Century. So they use district funding to help provide some programs in that area. Now, the reason why I bring that up is this next section, district-wide expanded learning funds. So LCFF supplemental and or concentration. Every district has to submit an LCAP plan. And in that LCAP plan, if you look up your LCAP for your district, you'll probably, if you search summer, if you search expanded learning, if you search after school, or you search enrichment, I guarantee you in this supplemental and concentration section of the LCAP, you're probably going to find something that discloses something about summer. So I'm actually going to pull something up right now. So I only hyperlinked Fresno County Superintendent of Schools, the county office in this section. I hyperlinked that because I couldn't hyperlink it to every county office that has the LCAP. So you need to figure out if you're going to use this resource and you want to look at your LCAP. One, you can go on your district and find it, or you can go to your local county office's website and find the LCAP. So I'm just going to pull up one that I know has some language. So this is Sanger's. So I'm going to look up in summer. Actually, let's do summer. Okay, I don't know why there's a submitted sideways. I don't want to crink. I don't want to crink your guys' neck. So we'll do another one. Let's do Clovis. So what I do is I usually scroll all the way down, because this is where you'll find that supplemental concentration section. Sorry, Clovis is a larger district. I should have went with a smaller district. Close your eyes so you don't get dizzy. Here we go. So this is the total expenditures table. So when you're looking at an LCAP, this is the total expenditures. Now, if you scroll down further, it will outline your the 20%, the concentration and supplemental portion. So if we notice on here, like we have special education programs, VAPA equipment, class size reduction. These are all after school intervention programs. Where do you think that happens? After school, probably during their programs. They do actually happen during their programs. EL summer school, limited to unduplicated student groups. So in this section, point being, in this section, you will find whatever after school, if they've distinguished in their district, in your district, that they want to provide funding to expanded learning like opportunities, it's most likely going to be in that supplemental or concentration section. And the cool thing about, and the reason why this is important is because it's unrestricted funding, and it's used for increased or improved services for foster youth, English learners, and low-income students. That is our population. That's the population we're supposed to be serving with ELO-P, ACEs, and 21st Century. So I'm going to get to why that's important, so stay with me, please. If you don't know much about it, all you have to do is click the link. It will give you some insight as to what it is. So for example, ESSER 3. ESSER 3 was created to address the academic impact of lost instructional time through the implementation of evidence-based intervention, and it can be expended through September 30th, 2024. Every district had to submit an expenditure plan to combat lost instructional time. And guess what the services that needed to be provided? Expanded like opportunities. Now, how do we know how much our districts got? Click on this funding level. If you click on that funding level, this will pop up. And again, I highlight the portion that you would want to know. So this is the 20% funding to address learning loss. Every district that qualified for this funding is going to be on this list. Actually, every district that didn't too. It'll just say a 0 next to it. So you find your district, you'll know how much of that 20% should be going to expanded learning like opportunities or interventions, okay? The next funding source, Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant, ELOG. This is the one that gets confused with ELO-P. ELOG was created in response to the pandemic. So people provide supplemental instruction and support to students, including those identified as needing academic, social, emotional, and other supports, including the provision of meals and snacks, can be expended through September 30th, 2024. Same thing. If you want to know how much your district received as far as ELOG, it's in this funding levels section. the thing to know about ELOG, there's specific language around providing summer and intersession opportunities. Again, if you don't know much about it, click on it and it will tell you all it is right here. Everything you need to know as far as expanded learning opportunities. Expanded learning opportunities program, same thing. Your district was funded at a certain rate. If you click on the funding levels, you'll be able to see how much they were funded. Provides funding for after school and summer school enrichment programs for transitional kindergarten through 6th grade. The first iteration is $1 billion ongoing, but as you guys probably know, the state budget is going to modify that if it gets passed. So in those conversations that you're having with districts, that first page, what I've recommended to people in my area is have this first page filled out. If you go into a district conversation with all this information already filled out, one, that's going to give you immediate credibility because it means you did your homework. You know, not just about ACES and 21st century grants. You also looked at, you took time to look at the LCAP. You took time to look at the ESSER3 expenditure report. You took time to dissect the ELOG grant and the funding levels. And then also, you know about ELO-P enough, okay? And if you put the funding amounts here, you're going to be able to show the district, hey, we receive a bunch of money for expanded learning opportunities. Now let's talk about those expanded learning opportunities. We disclose some of those services that we provide through ACES and 21st century. Let's now talk about what are the services that are district-wide that are expanded learning like opportunities. So
Josh,
yes.
are you moving on to the next one? We have a question.
So let me finish this section and then we'll go to questions.
Okay, you want to finish that one?
Yeah. So this right here, district-wide expanded learning like services. This is tied directly to ESSER3. These are opportunities. These were directly pulled from ESSER3 as far as like what ESSER3 is intended for, that 20%. So right here, summer learning or summer enrichment, extended day, comprehensive after school programs, extended school year programs, evidence-based high dosage tutoring, full service community schools, learning recovery programs, other evidence-based interventions. To me, that is all the things that we already do or that we're planning on doing with ELO-P. So to be able to distinguish in your document, hey, if you're in front of an administrator, what is the summer learning? I noticed it's in the LCAP and there's funding directly tied to summer learning. Is that the summer school that we provide? Is there no credit recovery? Okay, how many sites is that happening? And what does that actually look like as far as over the summer? What is the actual service? And that's important because if it's the same service that's being provided up here, then there's a conversation to be had about potentially combining services. Okay, so let's go over those questions that we have.
So Keith asked, and I put it in the chat just so you could read it too. Is there potential that ACES will roll into this program so there aren't two different requirements for attendance depending on what program the students are using?
So the goal that has been communicated with ELO-P, if you have ACES in 21st century program, is to have one comprehensive program. Because again, the ed code as it's written now for ELO-P is it says offer and access. There's nothing about attendance requirements. The attendance requirements are embedded in ACES in 21st century. So the goal with ELO-P is you're just serving more kids within your ACES in 21st century program, essentially. That is the vision. You're expanding services, you're expanding opportunities. That's the vision. I hope that answered that.
Josh, may I interject too,
Yeah.
just to add to that? So one of the things, regardless, I put something in the chat, just a general statement about universal expanded learning coming potentially in the future, whether to some extent pieces will roll together, but at this point, it's still so early to know. And the attendance, we still wouldn't know, just like Josh was saying, it still is going to be counted ACES for ACES and ELO-P. ELO-P is actually asking for attendance yet. So still too early to know specifics.
Yeah. Any other questions around that first section? Okay. So really we're digging under the hood. We're opening up the hood of the car of our district and asking ourselves, what are all the different services that we're providing that are expanded learning like? And what are the funding sources? Because now is where we have the conversation with the folks in the room, the superintendent, the CFO, the CBO, and we say, okay, expanded learning reimagined. We just dissected all the things that we're offering. So let's talk. Let's have a conversation around what services we're providing. So the first section, expansion of services. So if there's no before school program, do you want to create one? We can do that with ELO-P dollars. If we already have a before school program through ACES or 21st Century, do we want to expand student access using ELO-P dollars? Do we want to create an after school program? Do we not have ACES in 21st Century, but we need to do that with ELO-P dollars? Sure. Or do we already have ACES in 21st Century and we just want to expand how many people have or how many students have opportunities to attend? Now, one of the ones that I've seen this document used most is creating summer services or expanding summer services. Because the folks that do have supplemental or 21st Century funding, they've already ran summer programming, typically around 6 hours a day. The requirement's 3, but you can double your attendance if you run 6 for ACES in 21st Century. But ELO-P requires you to run 30 intersession days, and that's the easiest over the summer. But the thing is it's 9 hours. So if you get down to this section and you're talking with your district and you're saying, hey, the requirement's 9 hours. Up here, we acknowledged that there's summer learning happening at this many sites, and you're using district funding to do that. So let's say you're bringing on teachers for 3.5 hours to provide academic skill building. I don't know, whatever, academics, and it's a 3.5 hour program. And in the LCAP, it's called summer school or summer enrichment opportunities. This conversation can get very interesting because you can say, hey, we already have ACES and 21st Century programs running, summer programs. That, again, if tied to ELO-P, is one comprehensive program. We already have to run 30 intersession days. So can we weave in those teachers into that ELO-P program? And it's just one program operating on campus, so that there's not multiple programs on campus running at the same time, causing confusion for students, parents, and the community. And shoot, maybe even teachers on campus and administrators. So the conversation here is, do we just want to combine services? Do we want to make it easier on ourselves? And that's kind of the idea with all of these, with this expansion of services section. Do we want to combine services, and when do we want to do that? When's the goal? Especially considered that we have this year as a developmental year, and if the state budget passes next year, which is highly likely. Now, the other portion of this document, the next section, staffing framework. This can get awkward for some people, asking for things. I don't like asking for things. I definitely don't like asking for money. It's uncomfortable. But in this section, it makes it a little bit easier because you have this menu, you have this list, and you can blame it on me. You can say, yeah, that region lead from Region 7 told me to ask this, you know? So I know with these ELO-P dollars, there's districts that have a significant amount of money. We also know this. If you paid attention to the inflation report yesterday, 8.3%. So rate increases for our staff are absolutely a must right now. Otherwise, we are not going to get the people that we want. We're going to get the people that we need. So this first section right here is, do we want rate increases for expanded learning frontline staff? Do we want to provide additional hours for frontline staff? Do we want to integrate more staff into expanded learning programs? Do we want to make site leads full-time because they're going to have to see they might see potentially 3 times the students or work summers like they've never worked before. So do we want to consider making them full-time? Actually have them stick around? Do we want to create or expand leadership positions within the district? We got a lot of ELO-P dollars. Do we need someone to actually like take that on and run that? And then because we've outlined the different funding sources, not only the ACES and 21st Century grants, we've also acknowledged that the supplemental and concentration, the SO3, the ELO-G, the ELO-P, we know what the funding levels are. So right here in this section, we can acknowledge, we can ask the district, if the CFO's in there, hey, what funding source do you think we want to use with what we just acknowledged up there with all these dollars that we have? Is it plausible to use ELO-P to create an expanded learning leadership position within our district? Okay, well, when do you want to start that? The final section in this one is additional support and services. Do you need help with program plan development? And this is hyperlinked with the program plan guide. Who's going to do the program plan? Is it the administrator, superintendent? Is it the program director? Is it the site lead? Who's doing the program plan? So just getting on the same page with that. Professional development for expanded learning staff. Who's going to be responsible for that? And then how can you integrate some of those, some of the aspects in the K-12 regular day? Like, what are the things that are being taught in regular day that can be taught to our expanded learning staff so that the transitions are smoother, not only during the 180 days, but also those 30 intercession days, when you want to start that. And then also, selfishly, I put on here technical assistance around compliance. A part of my role and Virginia's role is to make sure our programs know exactly what the requirements are, and then to provide ongoing technical assistance. So do you need technical assistance? Acknowledge it here, and then contact your region lead when you want to start that. So that's that section. Any questions around that section? No question. No
None in
question?
the chat, but if somebody wants to chime in.
Yeah.
Or
So
even
let's-
maybe not questions, but even just feedback or what you're processing.
Yeah, because it is a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's keep it moving to my favorite section, next steps. So when you're in a room and you start to agree to things, I guarantee you the CFO is going to go, well, how much money is that going to cost? Well, guess what? You click right here, program cost calculator. It will tell you. You can input it into this document. So you'll need to make a copy. So go to File, Save As, download a copy. And I'm going to stop my share really quick. This is program cost calculator. So if you're in that room and you're talking about the reimagination of your schools or of your programs, there's going to be a cost associated with that. So if you put in here your UPP, the enrollment, total district enrollment, TK enrollment, we need to know that because 10-to-1 ratio, that has to be a conversation. That has to be part of the conversation. So if you put your expanded learning funding available here, that's the ACES in 21st century. Let's say that's $1 million. Oh, I'm not on my editing document. Hold on one second. There we go. So let's say the expanded learning funding available is $1 million. So that's your ACES in 21st century combined within your district. Let's say you had $4 million for ELO-P funding. So we knew those amounts. Those amounts are there. What we do with this formula, if you go to the second sheet, there's staffing. It's a staffing sheet. So if you've talked about making site leads full-time, what's that going to cost? Let's say you have 12 site leads, ASP. The hourly rate is 4,500. No, let's do 220 days, hours per day, 8 hours. What's the cost going to be? For 12 site leads at $45 an hour with including benefits, it will calculate how much money it's going to cost. But because you entered in the first section, how much ACES in 21st century is available, it factors that in this portion of the document. So it automatically subtracts here. So total staff costs using ELO-P or district funds, we're going to need $49,600. And that's going to tell you right there. What's really cool about this, though, is when you start entering in the other positions, say we want assistant site leads, same thing, ASP, $35 an hour, 220. They're not full-time, they're only 6. It's going to cost that much. In the cost projection on that homepage, it will tell you this is how much you're spending on your positions. So site leads, 950,000, assistant site leads, 400. Now, the reason why I like this too is oftentimes we can have a focus on leadership positions. So let's say the district has a high priority on district leadership positions, and they're going to get paid, let's say, $80 an hour, 220 days, 8 hours a day. We can see on the front where they're prioritizing. And it's good to know because we need to know where the money's going. We need to know where the district is prioritizing the funding. So if we look at this list and let's say we only want 2 full-time site leads, we can see, man, they're really prioritizing the leadership positions, but not really site level staff. There might be an issue with what it's going to look like at site level. So another aspect of this document too is if you want to put an emphasis on materials and supplies, let's say 50 grand, or let's say you wanted to do facilities, $200,000. That's $2 million. It will include that in the projection. So the other costs, 250. So that's the cost calculator. Can be used when you are in that meeting, or you can use that to follow up with them later. So in that last section, there's also a portion too. If you are contracting, let's say you're a CBO and you're in the space too, and the expanded learning professional or the superintendent goes, okay, so how do we move forward with this, with what we're talking about? Well, the CBO might say, well, we need to get a contract in place. So we acknowledge that. We select here, and then we put in the document, contract, develop contract with CBO. We also understand too that sometimes certain people engage in conversations, but we know that they're going to pass the baton to the next person as far as actually what it's going to be on site. So if there's a follow-up meeting and you need to talk about a specific topic here, but let's say you're the person that's passing the baton, you can put in a future contact name and their email. So that is the document as a whole. I hope you guys find it beneficial. I will say this, there are a couple aspects that I feel like belong in this document, and I will edit it as we learn more or as additional funding sources come out. But I will say 2 things that are glaring that need to be emphasized on this document that are not. So one is that the community schools grant that was recently released. There's 2 portions to that. It's planning and community schools integration. And it's important to know that because if your district applied for that, one of the tiers in that grant is expanded learning. They explicitly call out expanded learning. The other thing is serving TK. There's funding that was provided for universal TK that we can acknowledge on here. It's in their best interest to partner with us, and it's in our best interest to partner with them as well. They have their program plan that they have to develop. So it's important to get on the same page with what they're going or what they're doing. So any questions around that document?
We have one from Laura. I'm assuming districts can subcontract with nonprofits and others to provide ELO-P or programs and not pay for their staff to deliver ELO-P.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Do we have access to all documents? The link only gives me the one document. So, Bay, if you this QR code, if you select the link, that's by phone, but I think also Alana put in the Google Drive link. If you click that, it will take you to this. So what you're going to need to do though is you'll need to download the document. So download it. Once you download it, you'll need to open it up in not in Safari. Once you download it, you'll need to open it up into Acrobat, Adobe, and then you'll scroll down and all the hyperlinks will be active. Scroll down and you'll have access to the program cost calculator. Once you have access to that, just click it. And then once you click that though, you'll need to download it as well. Just like you downloaded this document. So I'm just gonna bring it up right now. So if you just clicked on the cost calculator, this is how it would show up. You'll need to go to File, Save As, and then download a copy. Once you download a copy, you'll be able to use it. Okay. So that was the resource. What are we thinking? Let's get 3 people to share out feedback on the resource, how they believe they can use it. And this is called Wait Time, a teaching strategy. So 3 people, if we can get 3 people to share out how they can utilize the document, the resource. Let's start with you, Virginia.
Sure. So I'm thinking when I think about the multiple perspectives, that activity you had us do, you know, I think I would get my hands on this document. Well, I guess I have a lot of thoughts going on at one time, I guess is where I'm at, but I'm thinking in terms of my current role, if I'm in the regional perspective, then how I could use this is passing it on to program directors, different partners I work with who do have interaction with a school district looking for partners or how to make the ELO-P work. I think if I'm a program director, because that was my former hat, the way I would use this is exactly what you said is now I have that understanding of what all these moving pieces, enough of what they do to be able to have that informed conversation to get it at least going. So I think I would take it to maybe like a partners meeting if I was in that context. I was working with the consortia, so the district administrators from all the districts, when we come together for a meeting, to give them an overview of it, but then more so use it at those one-on-one meetings when I have a check-in with those with administrators. That's how I would use it.
Thank you, Virginia. Elena, hand raised.
Yeah, so kind of want to go off Virginia's perspective. My perspective is a little bit different because I oversee 15 different schools, right? But I also have a director that I report to. I have to communicate with admin, superintendent, site leads. So there's a lot of emails from different people going back and forth and information. So this document will be all in one spot. So if I'm talking to a superintendent with bringing in these funds or my director, we're all on the same page. And there's really no miscommunication at this point because everybody sees the same feedback. So I might be a third party. And so what I communicate from superintendent to my director, I want it to be clear and vice versa. So this is going to help me out tremendously when I'm talking to all my admins and superintendents.
Perfect. Yeah, I thought the same thing. Once I started thinking about it, like this could be used as just as a tool to be able to pass along to the next person, the person that has to do more of the planning and what it's actually going to look like at site.
And I'll add something too, Josh, just in the design of the document itself, that everything is in one place is a huge lifesaver. I think if this were, let's say this were to get into the hands of an administrator, not an after-school professional, it would work either way because some of the feedback I've heard is from the administration side is like, I don't know much about ACES. I just assume that our grant manager takes care of it. So I assume everything's going well. So this could be also a nice resource for them to get just enough information to start that ball rolling, start that conversation. So I think that was really great on the design of it.
Cool. We have a couple in the chat. So Bay said planning. Mayan said, thank you, Joshua. This is a great way to present this to the district staff. Kimberly, great information and tools to give my principal. We have a very small charter school, and this gives us more things to brainstorm on with limited space and staff. Nice. I think that was one of the main objectives too, was making sure that all the information was in one area, but also too, sometimes when we go into spaces as expanded learning professionals, and we have that knowledge of ACEs in 21st century, it's great. It's fantastic. We know that. But if we go into a space where, you know, maybe even some district leadership doesn't know about what specifically it says or the funding amount for LCAP or for ESSER 3 or for ELOG or for ELO-P, and we then in turn are the educators, the ones that are teaching in that space, that builds credibility. You become a true thought partner, a true co-creator when you have more to contribute than just your perspective. And that was the whole idea around those animals. Although their camping trip was still fun, they starved, they're still best friends, but they learned that if they leaned on each other and they coordinated better, they'd have a better experience. So that's kind of the messaging with this document, is if we can coordinate, it will benefit the students and that academic experience that they receive. Eric Schmidt, great resource to support these conversations when it comes to expanding to new districts. Yes, yes. So I'm going to touch on a couple more points. We talked about how can we use this. If there's any more, I would love to hear, just because I love hearing about how people can use this. And honestly, again, this is just a tool. You do not have to use this. If you only want to use pieces of it, if you want to edit it, by all means, go ahead. It was created to be a resource for our field. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was the system of support for expanded learning. So if you remember in the beginning, Virginia and myself talked about we are region leads within Region 7. If you're not a part of Region 7, so the Central Valley, you're a part of another region. And it's important to know who your system of support representatives are. So the system of support is comprised of 11 different regions. And in your region, you have a CDE educations program consultant, and you have a CDE fiscal analyst. But you also have a local regional lead that's charged with providing technical assistance to your programs. Not just ACEs in 21st century now, but also ELO-P programming too. So if you feel like you're stuck, or you feel like that you need a charge, or you just want to check in from a compliance standpoint, hey, are we on the right path? Elena's going to put the link in. If you know what region you are, go to your region and you'll be able to find your contacts for the system of support. And Elena, I don't know if you do have that, but I have the link too. Yeah.
I do. I'm getting it right now. Sorry.
I got it.
Okay.
So, and then I guess, like, I always say technical assistance, like everybody knows what that is, but essentially our job is to make sure that you guys keep as much funding as possible through the lens of compliance. And more often than not, ACEs in 21st century, that's attendance. So are you meeting your attendance? But with ELO-P, it's going to be different. It's going to be that offer and access. So again, with the compliance coming down the pipe 2023, Funk's message this morning was amazing. It's like, let's start practicing now so that we take our bumps and bruises now, as opposed to when it actually counts, when it's game time. So I'm the type that I'm not going to like take people's time just to take people's time. So the presentation is concluded. I will stay on. I do want you guys to stay on. If you have any questions specifically around what was talked about today, I will stay on for the next 20 minutes, 30 minutes. If you have any questions around the document. So please ask away. Or if you'd like, go enjoy your break. Thank you, Kimberly. Be well. Thank you, Joe. Be well, my friend.
Thanks.
Josh,
Thanks, Bo. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye, Michelle. Thank you. You have a question, Virginia?
Yeah, just real quickly, I believe that the recordings would be curated by California After School Network and housed on their website, I'm thinking. I don't know the specifics of that. There was a question that